Okay. I think we are live. The experimentation continues.
I guess we should ask people to tell us we're live or.
Well, I mean, we literally just went live. So, all right. Well, in any event, man, let's get on this. Welcome to Industry Relations Live, the live stream. We apologize for technical difficulties. We just couldn't. There's so many issues, but at least we're able to do it on this channel, and then we will migrate this over. So by the time you are watching or listening to us, we may have been moved over to Industry Relations. And sorry if you wanted to come on, and all right, I see Stephanie. So at least maybe somebody will ask questions or argue with us. So as always, I am your co-host, Notorious Rob, and as always with me, the fabulous Greg Robertson over this way.
Hola.
Hola. All right. So, the whole premise behind live stream, I think, so we may not get there on this one, was to, answer questions, listen to objections and arguments, because I've been spicy of late. But until that gets going, I figure we might as well start with the fact that Saturday is kind of when most of the industry will shift over, so give me your thoughts, just starting on that, Greg.
I mean, so yeah, I don't know if excited is a word, but I mean, the Twitter and the internet itself has just been, and I've been sent a lot of stuff of just how ill prepared, because remember, it may have been the 17th for officially, but a lot of MLSs have already initiated these rules.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're starting to see the kind of the signals that are being sent out about this, where, people are being automatically fined.
Yeah.
As Stephanie says, the memes are already pretty spicy out there. There are people that are still not understanding what's going on. One of the most spicy conversations I saw was on Twitter, was basically Melissa talking about our last pod.
Sure.
Where you were encouraging realtors to commit forgery.
I was encouraging realtors to do the right thing, but if you legalistic snitches want to keep calling it, commit forgery, go for it.
I mean, I think there's a word for what you were suggesting realtors do, and I think that word is forgery. So I mean, I
think that word is justice. I think that word is common sense.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if you want to
no, we'll definitely get into that, right? Because here's the thing. I think the example we saw on Twitter, one of the spicy memes I saw was the stellar fine.
Right, which proved to be, a little bit inaccurate, but yeah, go ahead.
I don't know how inaccurate or accurate it is. I mean, you probably know better than I do, but
well, what it came down to is that yes, there was they are going to fine for that, which they should. Again, they want to avoid lawsuits, but
that's retarded. Number one, but okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
But what Stellar did say in another communication that the realtor, I guess, failed to read, was the first 60 days of this, they're going to waive those things, right? But it did, I think what they did capture some attention, though, right? So I think
sure.
So I think people are understanding, and I think this kind of blows away
wrong kind of attention.
Well, you can call it what you want. I mean, but I think this really blows away your argument and your kind of view that the MLSs are not ready to or can enforce anything. I mean, it looks like the MLSs are coming hard and coming strong, and they can enforce this stuff, unlike what you thought.
See, this is the problem with you lefties. You just twist
words. How does politics enter in doing the right thing? I mean, following rules. When does it become the left's position?
Because you're all about following the rules, no matter what the rules are, right? Okay, twisting words around and misrepresentation.
Twisting words around. I don't even know what.
So think about it. What I said.
There's something in there.
The whole thing about the MLS enforcement was specifically around that whole showing agreement, buyer agreement before the showing. Of course, the MLS can enforce other things, right?
That's not what the Stellar thing was, but yeah,
the Stellar thing is just stupid, right? And look, Stellar folks, if you are,
what do you mean stupid? The realtor is exactly going against what the settlement was.
That is simply not true. That is simply not true. What the realtor put, it was in the private area, private comment
of the MLS.
That's right. Said text me.
Right.
That's what it said.
To find out the compensation
Correct.
on this
So
listing.
what Stellar is throwing a fit about is because it said text me for co-op compensation. It's
You're
like,
not
this
supposed
is
to put
weird to me.
anything about
If you said
compensation
text me
in
for
the thing.
concessions, would they have been fined?
I have no idea.
You know, and I know that they wouldn't have been fined if it was text me for concessions, because
Okay,
that's what they want you to
you
do.
know what? But here it is.
What is the checkbox
I
for
applaud
concessions
those
mean?
guys because now people understand they should have said fucking concessions instead of commissions.
Oh, because that makes such a huge difference.
Well, I guess
The
it
meaning's
does,
the
right?
same, right? The meaning's the same.
Yeah. No,
The
I
meaning,
don't know.
just think about this.
Compensation is
Think about
probably
this,
the.
Greg. Think about this. What was the listing agent trying to do when she put that into the comment?
She was trying to get around the rules, is what she was
She was
trying
trying
to
to
do.
get around the rules.
Yeah.
Really? So check
Yeah.
the box that says seller will consider concessions. That's trying to get around the rules.
Well, I mean, Stephanie says right here in the comments,
Okay.
and thank you for joining us, Stephanie.
Right.
Stephanie says concessions are not the same as compensation, Rob.
No, of course not. My point is, what is this listing agent trying to do? You think the listing agent is really trying to get around the rules? Come on. The listing agent is trying to say, listen, buyer agents, we're all confused. You want to get paid. You text me and I'll let you know how
Listen,
that
this
gets
is
paid.
the
Right?
MLS is trying to make this a third rail.
So
There's
that's
no
number one. Wait, that's number one. Number two, Stella should probably talk to attorneys for some more, because we addressed this, right? What the MLS prohibited from doing is posting offers of compensation, right? When who was it? Ed
Well, what do you
Solakar
call when you say call me to find out what the compensation is on this? That
That's not
sounds
posting
like
a compensation.
well, it's you know it's
That's
it's
not
the same
posting of
neighbor. It's the same
compensation.
in the fuck. It's the
No,
same
it's not.
neighborhood.
It's not posting of compensation. Okay. My point is, a Stellar could have just ignored this and no one's going to sue them. They're not liable for anything. It's utter
Well,
horseshit. So this is Stellar
good thing
and its
is that
lawyer
they did ignore
being
this. They did
overly
ignore this
paranoid
because they're not fining
and
her.
being fucking
They did
dictatorial
ignore this because they're
tyrannical.
not fining her. So I mean, they did exactly what you told them to
But
do.
here's the thing.
What you're telling
This
them to.
then goes right into my point, right? Which is, so that was around offers of compensation. Okay.
Right.
Fine. And Colton says, post it. There is again, if you guys want to get legalistic about it, because that's what you want to do, you
It's not
can. My
legalistic.
point is,
It's the
it is
definition of a
legalistic.
word. It's not
People are
legalese. It's
confused.
a word. It's a definition.
People are confused. So if she had said, text me for concessions, that would have been fine. Text me for compensation, all of a sudden $500 fine, right? The agent meant the same
Again,
thing.
she wasn't fined, but go
Agent
ahead.
meant the same thing. Right. So this is what I'm talking about, the legalistic, not the substance, just the, well, you use this word instead of this word, so therefore you get $500. That's just ridiculous in my opinion. But what this does lead to, though, is what I talked about unenforceable was the snitch situation you brought up, right? I went and showed this house.
Yeah.
Okay. I did not have a showing agreement signed beforehand. How is anyone going to find it? How's the MLS supposed to enforce that timing of a ridiculous showing agreement that we both agreed?
They totally can enforce it. They aren't
How?
going to enforce it.
How?
Well, again,
Right. Let's walk through it. Let's walk through the steps once again.
absolutely. You ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
Two ways, right? Number one, a buyer could be talking to multiple agents, go to
That's
one
right.
agent and go,
That's right.
I want to see the house. And
That's
they
right.
says, sure, you have to sign the showing agreement. It says, well,
Right.
the last agent didn't. I have
That's
to do
right.
this. Well, who was that? Well, that was Janet.
That's right.
Oh, okay. And you know, Brenda, that
Right.
agent,
Snitches
goes to
Janet.
MLS and says, exactly.
That's right. And then what you wanted to do was the MLS then says, boom, here's a $5,000 fine.
No. I'm saying then the MLS could reach out to Janet and say, "Hey, Janet, it was
Right.
come to our attention that you're doing showings without an agreement.
Right.
We have a complaint here with this buyer. Can you please send us,
Right.
you know, the showing agreement it had, or else there might be a fine here."
That's right. So in that, so
Perfectly easy to do. Easy.
So the
peasy.
number of steps have to happen. Number one, this buyer has to refuse to sign the agreement before or after.
Correct.
Right? Okay. And then that buyer has to end up with Brenda.
Yep.
Say the last one didn't make me sign.
Yep.
And then Brenda has to snitch.
Well, yeah, Brenda is going to, rightfully so. Brenda wants to do the right thing. Why is it that I have to? She has to do the right thing, and other agents don't.
So okay, fine.
So, yeah.
I don't think that's the right thing, but fine. If you say that's doing the right thing, Brenda has to snitch, right? Okay.
Well, I mean, you can use the word snitch if you want to make it some sort of.
You're the one who used the word snitch, man, in our original podcast.
No, I don't. I don't
So
remember.
first of all, let's at least be acknowledging the fact that agents don't snitch each other out for MLS violations all
They
the
do
time.
all the time. What are you
No,
talking
they do
about?
not.
Oh,
They
dude,
do not. They
dude,
do not. Ethics violations do
that
not get filed all the time. They get filed
there's a.
once in a while. Dude,
I
like,
hope. I
I've
can't wait for
spoken
the
to agents like
comments from
I
MLSs.
dude, agents have told me to my face, like, this other agent I was working on violated code of ethics and did this, then, but I didn't want to get involved. And then I didn't want to go to an ethics hearing. I just forget it. And I just know, I just put in my notebook that other agent, unethical, be careful doing business with them in the future. They don't actually
I
report it.
think you would be shocked at how many violations are
No,
put on by
no,
other agents.
no. I'm saying, of course it is, but I'm saying it's a small minority of the times where they could have reported. The majority of the time when there's a violation, the agents do not snitch out the other agent. That's what I'm claiming. And
Yeah,
I think I'm 100% right about that, right?
I
Again, in
think
the
you're wrong.
comments, you all tell me, right? You all tell me. Okay, now, so I'm just pointing out, okay, so that happens. And now what we have is here's a situation that goes like this. Sonny just walked in and say anonymous whistleblower button on a lot of MLSs. Okay, fine.
Yeah, there you go. Boom.
Fine,
Yeah.
sure. Anonymous reporting, which is so Stasi-like, but okay, we go with that, right? Okay. My point is this: in that scenario, what have you done? Who have you harmed? I'm saying to me at that point, you know what?
You've harmed
Yes.
somebody who's trying to do the right
Who
thing.
have you harmed?
You've harmed the other agents that are trying to follow the rules. That's who you've harmed.
The rules are
If
ridiculous.
why should I? I mean, a lot of people dealt with their whole lives is like you try to be, follow the rules. Been put out there. All of us that are trying to do the right thing, and then
It's
these
not
other
the right
wanton
thing.
agents are just doing whatever they want. Why should everybody? Why, if I have to follow the rules, why don't these guys have to? Right? I mean, we all should. There's a set of rules, a set of policies. We're supposed to follow them. Let's follow them.
Do you agree with this? Do you agree with the rule
I
that
don't.
you need to have a signed buyer agency agreement
But-
before you show a house?
I think I've been on the record. I think it's too early in the process for that.
Thank you.
Correct.
So the rule is wrong.
Again, I don't make the rules.
I didn't ask whether you make the rules. I'm asking you.
I feel the rule is
wrong.
wrong. I feel
Right.
the rule is wrong.
The
Correct.
rule is wrong. And the rule, as we both agreed on before we got into the forgery conversation, was it should be before you submit an offer. We both agreed on that.
No, I mean, there's a lot of probably laws and other things that I don't agree with, but I mean,
I agree. Yeah, you don't agree with the 55
follow
miles
them.
per hour speed limit.
I
My
still
point is,
follow
you
them.
and I both agreed the rule was wrong, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the difference here is you are saying it doesn't matter if the rule is wrong, just follow it. And doing the right thing means following the wrong rule. I do not. I'm saying the right thing to do is doing the right thing for your client. And if the rule happens to be wrong, violate the fucking rule and pay the price. And this is the other thing. People are like, you're allowing. I'm not allowing shit. If you get caught, you pay the price. Just like if you speed and you get caught, you pay the price. You show a fake ID at the bar, you pay the price. Right? And then Stephanie asked the question, do you think people should only follow rules they agree with? Does that notion also apply to things like fair housing? Again, the issue, Stephanie, is do you agree with the rule? Do you?
I'm sure there's a lot of white supremacists that don't agree with the rule in fair housing.
And you know what? If they get caught, guess what? Then they get busted, right? Then they go away. My point is, if like at the end of the day, man, you got to do what's right for the client, right? Not be so this legalistic rules thing. And then what I'm having problem with, that's what it is. What I'm having problem is you've agreed that the rule is wrong, and yet you're saying the right thing to do is follow the wrong rule.
No, here's the right thing to do is try to work through normal channels of getting that rule changed, not forge documents in the meantime. I mean, work towards something constructive within the rule set, not like create another problem by committing forgery to do that.
Dude.
I mean, I don't know what I can't believe you're actually telling realtors.
Okay, so let me ask.
Committing forgery is a way of handling this.
Greg, so there used to be that it was against the code of ethics to show houses in certain neighborhoods to Black people. That was an actual rule.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you advise agents to follow that rule?
No.
Why not? It's the rule. Shouldn't you work within the system to, with the rule? Tell the Black family, sorry, this neighborhood's really not for people like you. Like, why shouldn't you follow that rule?
I don't think those are on the same level of of what you're talking about here.
What
Something
you're
is
talking about? If hey,
a moral
my point is,
versus
if you're
a
saying all rules, with even if they're wrong, the right thing to do is to follow it or work within the rules, then you have to tell them you can't show this house to black couples. I'm objective to that. I'm like, no, you got to go to justice, man. You got to go to what's right for the client, right? And if that means you violate the rule, yeah, you violate the rule. And Colton, it's you asked that question. Yeah, what agent's supposed to do is simply rebel against the rule and pay the price when you get caught, right? And that's the piece that was like, I'm not saying like we should just allow
I
people.
just
No, you
I
violate
don't
the rule, you get caught, you pay the price.
I
And
just
again,
don't think
people make it seem like we don't do this every single day. Every single one of us does this every single day. We violate
no,
the
but
speed
I don't
limit
think a lot of
every
people
single day.
commit forgery every day. No.
So you're making like, oh, forgery. You keep bringing up the forgery word. We're talking
Well,
about
I
a
keep
fake
bringing it up
ID.
because that's what this is. It's forgery.
You're saying
He's
this. I have this agreement that said, fine. Who's been harmed by this forgery? Who's been harmed? Has the buyer been harmed
okay.
in some
Can
fashion?
we just you always throw up these air quotes and everything else. Okay.
Yeah,
Can we just agree that the agent is committing forgery? Can you agree with that?
sure.
What's the definition of forgery, right? Signing something
Somebody
for
else's name.
somebody
Sure.
else, right?
That's
Okay.
right.
So,
That's right.
okay, I just want to make sure
That's right.
you keep on saying it's legalese, it's whatever else.
Fake
What they are
IDs are
doing,
forgeries.
uh, they are committing forgery by
Fake
doing
IDs are
what you're saying.
forgeries.
I didn't ask that question.
Okay,
I'm
so I'm
asking
just saying.
you
So
you're
we're both
deflecting it
agreed.
to the.
No, we're both agreed. I agreed. Agents committing forgery. College students committing forgery.
I don't know what the college students. I mean, why you bring that up
They're
all the time?
they're claiming this document, right? Sign somebody else's like name. That's forgery. Yes. We're not talking about forging somebody's signature on a bank document, right? We're not talking about forging a check here. We're talking about
It
fake
is a
ID
agreement.
forgery,
It
right?
is an agreement, right? It is agreement between a person that's supposed to have the fiduciary responsibility of that person.
Oh my! And the
Um,
agreement's impact is what? What does the
Again,
agreement
I mean,
say?
what is if you're saying that we can decide what agreements can be forged and what agreements
Yeah,
cannot be forged, I don't agree with that.
of course you don't because you just want to follow the rules. But what does the agreement actually say?
Well, these Turing agreements can be freaking different in every city, state,
Sure,
and municipality for
sure.
sure.
But if the
Yeah.
Turing agreement literally says you've hired me to show you this house, at the end of it, the contract is over. You owe me nothing. I'm going to do this
Well,
for
I
free.
mean, is that where maybe people should be investing their time in like creating such a flexible touring agreement
No,
that
but
nobody would ever have a problem
that,
signing it instead of like committing
that's
forgery?
not.
Maybe we should be
Of course you
focusing the
should.
discussion on that.
But here's the thing: remember the context of a conversation. This was because of a agent in Houston could not get 5 of their leads sign a free touring agreement, right?
No, that's been one example for
That
sure.
was
Yeah.
the example. No, that's what we were discussing when all this popped up. My point is, okay, in that scenario, is it really in the buyer's best interest to say, well, sorry, then I can't show you this house? Or is it in their best interest to show them the damn house?
Yeah. I mean, what I get, the concern is like you have a lot of people that they understand what the rules are. They want to understand what the policy is. And like, they're going to say, you know what? I'm sorry because I'm a member of this organization and I've agreed to
Right,
follow these rules. I cannot
right,
do that. Right.
right,
And they go to the next guy. He says the same thing. He goes to the next guy. They say the same thing. And then they find some agent that is just not going to do that and say,
right.
who cares about all them? Who cares? Whatever. I'll just sign it. Don't worry about it. I mean, it's just not fair to the rest of the people that are trying to work within the system, work within what they've committed to by being a part of this
Okay.
organization.
I,
And it's not a it's not in my view, it's just not a good way of solving this problem.
uh, look, I think the only relevant, and I respect Colton's point here, is like this is not useful. They're just trying to figure it out. Look, this is relevant, so I'll try to make it why I think it's really relevant. We're about to go through some serious confusion periods, right? And again, you and I could have a lot of fun arguing this forgery point or whatever, but the fact of the matter is there's going to be a shit ton of confusion. Okay, I think the two approaches that people are going to take is either the substantive approach, which is what I'm advocating for, or the legalistic formal approach, which is what I think a lot of folks are going to because it's easier. here's what I mean by the substantive approach. What is it that these settlements, these reforms are supposed to try to do? Like, what's the goal we're trying to get to here, right? And again, maybe different people have different opinions. This is my interpretation of what these goals are trying to get to. They're trying to eliminate steering, right? Where buyer agents are like, oh, we're not going to go see this house because it doesn't pay enough, right? We're trying to eliminate that. We're also trying to have it where the buyer, before the buyer agent can make any money, they have to have some conversation with the buyer, saying, here's what I'm going to do for you. Here's how I get paid.
Right.
Here's about how much I'm going to make from this deal. Okay. At the end of the day, like, what we're trying to achieve is eliminate the previous system where the consumer had no idea, and buyer agents are like, my services are free. You should just, use me. Let me show you this house. The minute I show this house, I have procuring costs, and now I'm owed 3% or whatever. We're trying to eliminate that and say, look, hey, buyer agents, go talk to your buyers. Make sure they want to hire you. Make sure they understand what you're going to do for them, and you can sort of explain, here's how I get paid. Here's how much I'm going to make. Okay. That, like, the substance of all these reforms is that, coupled with let's eliminate steering, right? So what did Ed Zorn at the end of the day, like, the thing he kept saying is just put it in the offer, just put it in the offer, right? That's kind of what we're trying to get to here, right? That's the substance of it. What we agreed on, and what I think everyone should look at is whatever rule, whatever approach, whatever form you're going to use, does it advance that goal? If it does, go with it. If not, then I'm saying I think you got to find a way around it or ignore it, right? Because what you have to do at the end of the day is what's right for the client, right? Not what's right for you, not what's covering your ass, not what's right for the MLS. You got to do what's right for the client. If you do that, what I've been suggesting is everything will work out. If, on the other hand, you go take the other approach, like, it's not about the substance, about the formal. So the word compensation versus concession, that's the issue. So we're going to punish on this word versus that word. Like, that's not going to advance the substance of this. Like, who is that helping? Who's that improving our industry? I'm arguing it doesn't.
Let me offer a tweak to your
Please.
solution here of forgery, right? Because you're saying if they get caught, pay the fine, right?
What's that?
That's what you're saying. If you're saying if they get caught,
oh yeah,
you get caught, you pay the fine. Okay,
you
so let's eliminate something here that I think will bridge the gap here that I just thought of, right? So, agent has a buyer come in here. The buyer says, the agent said to the buyer, "Listen, I need you to sign this to show you the house." They refuse to sign. Okay, well, I'll show you the house anyway. They show the house anyway, right?
Right.
The agent, now that new buyer goes to the next agent, right?
Yep.
And next agent's asks him to sign something, says, I'm not signing anything. The other agent didn't have me sign anything. Right. The agent then turns that into snitches, as we've been saying, right? I think so. So when that agent gets a communication from the MLS, they say to the MLS, no, I didn't have him sign anything.
Right. Here's my fine.
Okay. Now what's missing from that is, you were saying before, just sign the thing and send it in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you're saying that they should just fess up and pay that fine, then let's take out from what you're saying. Let's not have them forge anything. Just say, you caught me.
Sure.
How about that?
Sure.
Because I think that's going to accomplish what you're saying without having to commit forgery.
Sure. Fine. I mean, obviously,
fine.
My thing is, that's fine. Fact is, what people are going to do. Human beings are human. They're gonna. It's like,
I don't know. I think that a lot of agents are going to take this thing of signing a document more seriously than it seems like you are.
Let's put it this way: it would be honorable if they say, "You're right. Here's my fine."
Yes.
Or, I refuse to pay this fine because this is unjust, and I will take you to court. Either way,
they can do that without committing forgery.
Whatever you want to do.
I'm getting at.
Sure. Yeah. And just like you shouldn't use fake IDs to get into bars, people are going to do it. I'm just pointing out people are going to do it. And here's the thing: I'm not going to condemn them. I'm just not, right? Like, you don't want to pay this fine for a rule that you don't find, agreeable, and you decide you're going to do whatever, and up to forgery. Here's the forgery. Literally, you just like produce a form and there's like a DocuSign, whatever, made up signature at the bottom. Right.
Yeah. Forgery.
It's forgery. Yeah. And if you get caught for that, right, and then you get to go talk to the district attorney's office, then you're going to have to deal with that.
I mean, there's probably a couple of things there. there might be. I mean, you could imagine MLS rules would have, or maybe it's even bigger than that. Maybe there's rules against forgery that could go beyond the MLS, right?
Right.
Could
That's
be
what I
go to
said.
the
Right.
state, whatever. So
That's right.
you're
You put
putting,
right.
by them committing that forgery, they're endangering other things beyond just not paying a goddamn fine. So I wouldn't
Hey,
ever go down this road with
that's
forgery.
totally fine. Like I said, man, you do whatever. Like, I'm just saying, I'm not going to condemn them for trying to get away from a unjust MLS
Oh yeah,
fine. Right.
I think going through this, I in my head, I think in what you're saying, if you're saying, hey, I got caught, pay the thing, and nobody has to commit any other further things, then
Sure.
I think we're at
Right.
a
Right.
good resting point for this.
Right. And I think that's fine. It's so, like I
There
said,
will be peace in the Middle East here. There will
hey
be
man, we
peace in the
like
Middle East.
we this is what civil disagreement looks like. You know, I mean, I'm sorry, but we can't seem to have it in our industry too often, right? Here, so here's the real takeaway, though, the next level from that, right?
Well, this
Hey,
has got to be
MLSs,
changed. It's got to be
it's
changed.
got to be changed. But
It's got to be changed.
in the meantime, everyone's focusing on, oh my God, the forgery. How about this? Here's the other place where we can come to terms, come to peace. Hey, MLS, when you get Brenda saying Karen didn't have a buyer agreement, and you contact Karen, and Karen goes, "Yep, I did that because I thought that was in the customer's best interest." Right. By the way, I didn't charge them anything. I didn't. They, you know what I mean? Like I didn't put them on the hook for anything. I'm not. I'm not claiming procuring costs. Nothing. I literally just showed a home without a piece of paper. How about you make the fine 99 cents? Right? Because there's the other aspect. If the MLS gave a shit about the substance of the reform, the substance of what we're trying to achieve here, as opposed to, you know, oh my God, our lawyers told us we don't do come down hard, then the what? Like, get over yourselves. You know, just go.
Well,
Hey, you did
yeah.
it. We understand. Here's a
I,
fine. It's a dollar.
it maybe it's a nudge, nudge, wink, wink, whatever. But let me just say this also. Um, you know, it's a very litigious environment out there, right? So I can't fault an MLS to being as careful as they can, because look how many millions and millions of dollars have gone out, how much time is spent on this thing. So for MLSs to be a little bit gun shy at first about this stuff and really kind of come hard down, I can't blame them for doing that, right? I mean, we're just at the early days of this, and these guys are, are a bit, it's like a beaten dog, right? Anybody raises their hand, they kind of flinch right now. Now we'll see what this goes over time, but I can't fault them for starting off with a hard line. Maybe that smooths out later on as we kind of learn a bit more, but I'm not blaming them for what the
Sure,
choices they're making right now. That's
sure,
all.
sure. I mean, maybe it's not about blame. Maybe it's about, you know what? Rethink this. Okay. Rethink this. If you're the MLS, like, again, as Stephanie pointed out, no harm, no foul thing. Like, really, if no one was hurt, and the agent here is not trying to do some fucking weird, unethical shit. It's like, okay, but here's the deal. So to me, the MLS in this case would be like the security at the bar, right? It's like, okay, this kid walks up, shows me a fake ID. I can tell it's fake, right? And I have to call. It's like, listen, this is fake ID. Maybe don't call the SWAT team and have the girl shot, right? Maybe have some, like, who's hurt by this, right? So something like the timing of buyer agency form, it's a $5 fine. Now here's the thing. Let's say you actually violated one of the substantive things. Okay. Like, let's say you were steering, right? Like, you're going around telling buyers, like, well, now that I know, I'm going to call ahead, see what the concessions offered is. And because of that, I'm going to be like, oh, no, you don't want to look at that house. Let's say you were doing something actually at the substance of what we're trying to change here, and you want to come down hard on that. Who would complain?
Go to town.
Right? Who would complain? My point is, MLS talk about $5,000 fine for not getting the timing of this showing form in place. Like, at that point, you have become tyrants. At that point, like, the MLSs and the compliance department, like, it's like they've lost sight of what it is that they're trying to do, what they're supposed to do. And it's the same problem as with the agents. So that's my whole argument behind this, right? Like, I'm a lawyer trained. Like, I understand the importance of, like, terms and all this stuff. My point is, like, the formality of the law is not what's important. It's what are you trying to achieve? What's the purpose of it? What are we trying to get at? And we all agree on the purpose. I think we all agree on the purpose of this. Have the buyer agents sit down with the buyer, have a full consultation. Here's what I'm going to do for you. Here's why you should hire me. Blah blah blah. Go through the whole thing, and have the buyer say, you know what, I agree with you. I'm going to hire you. Yes, it is going to be 2.5% or 3%, whatever it is. Yes, I know you're going to ask for the seller for it, but like, great. Have everyone understand everything, and then go show them the house. My point is, if for whatever reason it doesn't work in that specific way, are you supposed to tell the buyer, then sorry, I can't help you because you won't sign this piece of paper? Some people are going to make that decision, and I'm saying totally fine with it. Like I've had people on my blog saying, I work this way, and I don't want to work with a buyer who's not a serious buyer who's not willing to commit to me. Hey, power to you, brother. That's awesome. My point is, but let's not pretend that's like for the buyer's best interest, right? Others are going to be like, what's the harm? Let me open the door, show this house. At the end of it, I'll be like, hey, now that I showed you this house, and do you want to sign with me? Right? And the buyer says, yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm not ready. Okay, cool. Would you mind signing this piece of paper so I don't get in trouble? Right? Like, who's been harmed in all of this? How does this affect the substance we're trying to achieve?
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, the industry got sued,
Yeah.
right? We created a settlement. We agreed to this settlement that has A, B, C, D, E, and
Yes.
F, all the way to Z, right? Some of those things are substantive, as you said. Some of those things, I think, if NAR went back and they looked forward a little bit more, maybe the 2 billion number as you thought about it, and this, they would go, yeah, you know what? We should have kind of fought harder here or thought a little bit more clearer on this, right? They would have.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter remains the same.
Yeah.
We, as an industry, and again, not blaming anybody, whatever, but we came up with a settlement. We agreed to the terms of those settlement, right? And we signed to say that we were going to do our best to handle those things. And for later on us to say, well, A, B, C, D, I think, makes sense, but F, I'm going to be a little bit on, even though that of all those, A through Z, maybe F and G and L don't make, aren't really that kind of thing. We have to still understand that we signed to say we were going to, this is what we agreed to, right?
Yeah.
Because we want them on the other side to say, well, you know what? We really said, X, but we really meant Y. I mean, it's a thing there. I understand what you're saying. I understand. And I agree with what a lot of these things are, but you know what? The ship has sailed and we signed that agreement, and we've got to somehow, and that's why I talked to you ahead of time, in a previous podcast, like, how do we go back and say, you know what? Hey, we're doing this and this, now that we've been practiced, this and this doesn't really make sense. Can we get an amendment to this agreement? Can the attorneys do that? What's the process of that happening?
They go and say, agree, and then go to the court and say, hey, we need you to modify your order.
Yeah. So let's hope something, if anything, is all this kind of dissertation and punditry has happened, that they can go back and really look at the timing of when this.
I do want to point this. I do want to highlight this comment from Stephanie. Right, the no harm, no foul thing makes sense, except that people are being public about looking for workarounds in, as Greg put it, a litigious environment. I think it's a really great point. Here's what I would say about that. Right, we've both seen this. I saw that. That picture you saw. Somebody put 3% inside the lockbox.
Yeah, that's funny.
Or
they mowed in the lawn 3%, right?
You want to find those people $5,000? Have at it.
Right.
Because to me, that is your. And here's the thing: this is where common sense has to come into play. Right. Like common sense, like you and I, everyone looks at that and goes, okay, you're clearly trying to play games here, trying to get around the substance of what you're trying to achieve here. To me, that is really different than some buyer agent showed a house and the MLS comes on him super hard. It's like, oh shit, I don't want to pay $5,000 fine. So here, right?
Don't you think? Okay, I agree with you. But don't you think? Just going back to our first thing, that one example that I gave you that Stellar fined for, when they put in the agent remarks,
right?
Reach out to me, text me about this. I mean, a little borderline.
Maybe
borderline.
Here's the thing. I think before they remember, one of the things about it was no call, no inquiry, nothing, just boom, fine, right? Now, what we didn't know is that they were just suspending it, right? So maybe
Yeah.
it's like a, but obviously, the thing to do is try and figure out, was this an agent just trying to get around, like trying to be an asshole, or did they mean concessions and just forgotten to use word compensation? Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
that's a phone call, right? I think that's reason. Again, I'm like, let's just go back to common sense. We know when people are trying to fucking play games, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
think most of us can tell.
But I
Are
mean,
there going to be, those really difficult gray line? Sure, right?
uh,
Sure.
but I mean, like think about it from this perspective. You're a parent. I'm a parent. I've managed salespeople for a long time, and when something goes awry, you got to put those rules in, and you go hard the first time to get people freaking to implement it. And as you go on in time, people get the message, and maybe later on it's not as whatever. But you
Mhm.
got to come hard that first time when you're putting these things in. If you
Yeah,
go soft to begin with, you're not going to get the kind of
yeah,
effect that you want here. So
yeah. We'll see. So let's try and move on a little bit. We agreed we're going to start with that topic because it's the hottest. That
yeah,
people like it if we
I think we
argue.
came with a good conclusion, though. I
I
think
think so. Yeah.
just don't commit forgery and fess up if you get caught, and hope and let's add to that the MLS should be pretty lenient in those types of
Yeah.
offenses
Yeah.
because, as you
Yeah.
say, you're saying that there's really no harm done. So
Right.
I like that.
Cool. Yeah. Don't
I
don't
like
force
that kind of thing.
don't force agents to have to go commit forgery. You know.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I'm going to repeat this before we move on. If you do the forgery thing and you get caught for that, and then you have to go to jail for it, guess what? You pay the price. Like none of this is you should get away with stuff. I'm just saying, just pay the price. Anyway,
Yeah, and the
all right.
judge isn't going to say Uncle Rob said I could do it.
No, the judge is gonna fucking go after you and like, hey man, that's the nature of civil disobedience. All right. So the question, this I think is from Wendy. Can you talk about the ramification of brokers that put in their contracts to quote skip the home if comp isn't offered? Good one. Thoughts?
I mean, yeah, not cool.
See, I want the MLS to go after this.
Yeah, not cool.
Find this $5,000.
Yeah, I mean, is that really? I mean, it's got to be happening out there. I
It's
mean,
got to be happening.
I've
Yeah,
shared some stuff that's like, with an agent said like, when they were asking for what they think of the counter, and the buyer's agent says, well, you're only offering 2%. If you
yeah,
offered more, I could work a little harder on this, right? It's
yeah,
like, what the actual f on is going on with that, right?
yeah, yeah.
So what the ramifications? No, big fine, big termination of their license. I mean,
Big lawsuit.
go hard, right? Big lawsuit, everything, right?
Yeah, yeah. So let me ask you this question, like because that question from Wendy leads right into it. I don't know about you, but I've been having a shit ton of these like investment analyst calls, and they're asking my opinion about what do you think happens, like in the short term and then over the longer term, yeah, to the industry. I don't know if you had those calls as well, but I'll just ask, what do you think happens now? So after Saturday, short term, and we'll define that as through the end of the year, okay, and then longer term. What do you see happening?
Restate the question one more time again, because you.
So, in the short term, like after these changes are put into place, right? Do you think agents like all switch? Like, what do you see happening industry wide, right, in terms of agent and broker behavior? Short term, it's like through the end of this year, and the longer term.
Oh, I think I've written this. It's going to get worse before it gets better. I think we're going to see. It's going to be a shit show till the end of the year. It's going to be a
Like,
shit show to the end of the year.
what's
Oh,
the shit show? What do
the
you?
shit show is exactly like some of the memes you see out there. Like I just mentioned, agents going, well, 2% is too low, and I'm not going to work that hard if you're only going to be paying me 2%. And say that in writing, and say that in emails, and say that on Twitter, and do all the awful stuff. Or just what Wendy's saying, brokers saying, skip it. If they're not offering comp, move on to the next one, right?
Right, right,
It's going to be that type of behavior because agents, they've been programmed so long that the way the business is done
right.
is this way, and now it's been changed, and they don't understand. I don't think a lot of agents really understand at the deep level what this is trying to avoid because they've been it's a bit of Stockholm syndrome. They've been
Right.
under this perception for so long that they think it's cool, it's copacetic, it's
Right.
kosher, right? So they're just gonna it's gonna get they're just gonna all this it's gonna be ugly for a while,
So
and then we'll roll into maybe something better, maybe at the beginning of Q1 next year.
so there's one question, one issue where I wasn't quite sure, so I'll just kind of lay it out, see, get your take, and then everyone else who's listening, if you have a take, we'd love to hear it as well. Which is around short-term behaviors of listing agents. Okay, and the question essentially was, I can't remember what company it was. It was on Twitter somewhere where one of the brokers already have said, if you want to see commissions, compensation offers, come to our website. And we talked about this, like that is specifically allowed
Yeah.
in the settlement, right?
Yeah.
And then we talked to Ed Zorn, and since then I've kind of changed my mind. I feel like it'll be relatively short term. We're going to see the offer of compensation go away, not because of the settlement, not because of any of this, but because of just straight competition. Right. And this is what Ed's point was when he was on the podcast, right? It's like, if you walk in and say to the seller, my commission is 6% because I'm going to share half of it, and I walk in saying my commission is 3%, I'm going to win that business every single time. I
Right.
kind of think that's going to happen. So even if websites have, compensation offers, I know there are companies out there like collecting offers of compensation, all that. I feel like it's just going to fade away. The question is how quickly. Do you see that fading away by the end of this year? Do you think it could be that fast? Or is it going to be like end of next year, when the listing agents figure out, hey, man, if I go out with 6%, I'm going to lose every single presentation. Like, how long do you think it'll take?
Well, yeah. Yeah, it is. It's almost like it's like a marketing pitch, right? I mean, it's marketing messaging, right? So
Right.
what is going to um what is going to work? Yeah,
Right.
you know what? I don't know. I mean, I think people are going to experiment. I think that's one of the ways people could look at it. I think
Right.
another way could be looking at it is like we're offering up to they'll use a dollar amount instead of percentage and see how that works based upon the price of the home.
But
So
it's not the offering. I'm saying at the listing presentation, right? The listing agent, you go in, you talk to the seller, here's all the wonderful shit I'm going to do for you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what's it going to cost me?
okay,
If
but
you
if
say,
yeah, yeah,
right?
right. So if I'm an agent doing that, it's really you're pitching the net sheet, right? If you go in and you say I'm going to be offering 6% because all this is going to happen,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it's all going to be built in before, so you're going to know that. And then another person comes in and says I'm going to be offering 3%, and then you ask because you've talked to the other agent,
Right,
well, does it include this and that? Oh no, it doesn't.
right.
That'll be on. So it is a bit of messaging, and like the agents that can demonstrate and fully make people understand what that 6% means versus what really the 3% means.
Right.
I think it'll be okay. So it's a messaging marketing thing more than
So
anything else.
so does that mean we think that listing agent commission will either, because it's one of two things, right? It's either going to go to half or it's going to remain about steady and compensation offered. In other words,
Yeah,
what the listing agent's going to make is the same, right? They're going to make the 2.5% either way. The question
yeah,
is, are they going in saying it's 5%, right? Because I share half of it to compensation, or are they going to go in and say it's 2.5% and then maybe concessions depending on offer?
yeah. I think if you see a trend happening now, and I saw
Yeah.
this with EXP and some others, where they're saying a lot of these brokers are saying we're not going to do any broker to broker
Right.
compensation
Right.
things, right? So it's
Right.
going to be you. I think they're going to keep it simple. Here's what I'm offering for my
Right.
services. We should accept all offers from everything else, and then educate the seller saying these might include offers that are going to ask for some sort of compensation from the
Right.
buyer's agent, right?
Right. Right.
But to mingle those things, I think that's going to be I think we're going to get rid of that quicker than just to put it back in your frame of your
Right.
question. I think that's going to be gotten rid of quicker than later because I think it's going to be focus on what you're doing and not try to kind of mingle things up together
That's
because I don't
kind
think
of my
brokers want
feeling
that
too.
happen. Yeah.
That's a big change, man. Like by the end of the year, think about this. By the end of the year,
But
what
but
it means is,
that's but there's that invisible hand again. I mean, that's exactly what I think the people behind this, maybe not just the lawyers who are just trying to fucking get paid, but want to see they want the buyer to understand where the money's coming from and where
mhm,
who's
mhm,
who's who's paying that money. That's what and that's gonna like open their eyes on it. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine and he was likening this. Oh, that's just like when they change, although this is actually, I think, pretty interesting, is like when on your credit card statements, you have to have a bit more context to like that 29% or that 12%, right? It
Hmm.
says
Hmm.
it's 12% or 29%. And that means, and it gives you a narrative of what that means, right? And it's like, holy shit, it's like putting the calories on a goddamn fucking menu. It's like, that's a lot of money. I never really thought of it that way, right?
Yeah.
Now, does that really change consumer behavior? You can make an argument about that, right? But
Yeah.
it is in the same vein of this type of exposing, giving transparency to actually what's being charged, right? So
Right.
that's the spirit of it, at least.
All right. So on the listing side, I think we're both kind of agreed that we are going to see listing agents pretty quickly, like by the end of the year. I think most of them moving from 6% commissions to 3% or 2.5%. You know what I mean? Like what
Yeah.
I will charge you,
Yes.
and then we'll deal with the concessions. I feel like that's probably going to happen on the buy side, though, because
Yeah.
what you brought up is super interesting. This is the other thing I don't have a strong conviction on this. So maybe the agents in the field who are maybe listening, like chime in here. Do you think that buy side commission will get compressed by the end of the year? Like not 2 years out, like
By
by
the end of this
December
year,
this year. In other words, through concessions, right? I'm not sure. So I'll give you like why I'm hesitant about it. Okay. Thing
well,
that I
okay.
think about is most people are worried so much about like the low income buyer, right? The VA
Yeah,
loans,
FA, yeah.
all that, and I have already addressed that with the whole other thing. But I kind of feel like at the luxury high end, there could be real pressure because I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter how rich you are, right? If I'm buying a $5 million house, right? What is that? $150,000. I'm going to be looking at this buyer agent, and the buyer agent could be the greatest buyer agent that ever lived, right? I'm gonna be looking at them going like, really, dude, you're gonna make $150,000? Like, what exactly are you gonna do for me where you're gonna make $150,000? Don't you think?
Well,
Am I crazy about that?
yes and no. I mean, again, this is look at it on the side. It's a large transaction,
Yep.
right? It's a large transaction for them, right? So the fact that you're trading in 5, 10, 15, $20 million, the consequences of something going bad and what that means because of the money you're talking, 5, 10, $20 million, is an order of magnitude, right? And you know, a percentage of that to ensure that that transaction goes smoothly, or you get what you want or as much as you want. A lot of people in that high end thing, again, with I think with a lot of high end people, it's about time. It's about, they want to just make sure, listen, motherfucker, just get it done and make sure there's no problems, and they're willing to pay extra for that, right? I mean, they're not the value kind of guy. Now,
No, I agreed.
hold on. And I think already this is already built in. Those guys that are right now paying that stuff, I hate saying this because I think the industry has said this too much, but commissions have always been negotiable, right? And if you're a highfalutin, high negotiating person, you are already making those arguments before because you could, right? Listen, I'm not paying anything. I'm not paying this. I mean, those guys have been doing that for a long time already, right? So, um, does this maybe make it easier or like it's more exposed for people to do that? Sure, but I don't know if it's going to make that big of a difference on the high end. My
Okay.
my opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I don't really have a reference. It just makes me think, you know.
yeah.
Like there's a number. Like, yeah, maybe those guys are gonna care. It's like, okay, whatever, 30, 40 grand, like who cares? Right. It's not that big a deal for me. And to your point, it's about time. It's about, just make my life easier, make this transaction happen. But I think even those guys, even the rich, have to look at and go, time out. Like 150 grand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, some of these, look at the two. I mean, I'm in Newport Beach. Look at the $2 million listings. What the fuck does that add up to? I mean, it's crazy.
right. So it makes me kind of wonder. That's all. I have no answer to that. I'd love to kind of, and I guess we're gonna find out. In the next
Yeah.
few months, right? What the high end luxury agents are. What are they seeing? Are the buyers pushing back at all? Are they saying, okay, cool, like fine, you're this amazing agent. Tell me what exactly you're gonna be doing to make two
I
hundred
know.
fifty thousand dollars from this one deal.
I know
Right.
a mutual friend of ours that does a lot of transactions. I mean, what they're getting these, and a lot of these, because they've taken the compensation off the internet.
Right.
in their listings is that, hey man, we'd love to do this, but you're only offering 2%, and you need to really come up because I've signed an agreement with them for 3%. It's
Right. Right.
like they're like going back to him like, hey man, that's not my problem. Right. I mean, I don't know, what do you think that why you think that's my problem?
Right.
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 So that's
Right.
something you're gonna have to deal with, not me.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
there's gonna be, I think, little sympathy um that's going to happen out there.
So
Again, if homes are moving as fast as they are because of the low inventory. Now
so
here's
do we?
a really interesting question is like, what if and I don't know how this happens, but what if it flips?
Okay.
Can you imagine the bloodbath, the buyer's revenge, the revenge of the buyers after that, right?
What
It's
do you
like,
mean?
oh well,
Oh, when the market
oh
flips.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, that's going to be hilarious.
Ooh, yeah. What's the concession exactly?
Yeah, exactly.
My client's looking for a Lamborghini. All right.
You're going to leave this in the garage, right? Yeah.
All right. We only have 10 minutes left. Let's try and wrap up with this. In your opinion, what do you think will be the number one most find activity in the next 90 days?
Oh, I know. I'm pretty solid that it's going to be agents trying to be clever about putting in the compensation in their communications.
Like the stellar type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, a little bit. I think even more brazen than the seller thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're all gonna play games for a while.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the 3%
Oh, the
of lock
memes are gonna,
cars.
as Stephanie
Yeah.
says, the memes are even gonna get better, right?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be amazing. All right. I'm thinking, yeah, I kind of feel like it's gonna be that. I could
Well, hey,
see.
before could we just pivot a little bit to the
Sure, of course, man.
Michigan
Oh,
Michigan
that's right. That's right.
conversation?
That's right.
Yeah,
The
we got 10
the
minutes here.
the what I call it, the ray gun of lawsuits.
Yeah.
uh, what do you want to talk about? I mean, it's a terrible lawsuit. It should get thrown out of court like immediately. I
And
feel like that
why
lawyer
do you
should
say that?
face some consequences. It's
Well,
awful.
it's written awful, right?
I mean, it's really, really bad. Like we're
Yeah.
talking like failure to do basic research. We're talking, ignorance of like what NAR rules actually are. It's embarrassing. Let's put it that way. So to me, it's like it will get thrown out as far as NAR is concerned instantly, because literally in the complaint says, although NAR allows non-members to join. I'm like, well, if NAR allows non-members to join, why are you suing them? Right? Like,
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of when we were at Inman and we saw JFK talk
yeah, RFK.
and
It
RFK.
would have been a
Sorry.
neat trick for JFK to talk.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Um, and he talked about like housing agenda and what is and he cited that companies like Blackstone were responsible for buying 33% of all the housing inventory, and he put a stop to that. It's like
Right.
that is such it's so a meme in itself when it's really closer to less than 2%, but somehow some article got written where everybody thinks it's like 30% of housing inventory has been bought up by Blackstone and other private equity things. For him to kind of like come out and say his policy is to kind of make sure that doesn't happen. And well, hey, dude, you should talk to somebody that really knows about the industry, because that's just a flat up embarrassing.
Sure, but he's not factually wrong, at least. Right? In other
Well, I
words,
mean,
like in I think it was Atlanta, where 33% of new home of
no, I'm talking. I
transactions
mean, he was making
were
this a
Blackstone.
national policy. Yeah, it's not a national policy, though, right?
No, I'm just saying, but
Yeah,
at least he's not factually wrong. I'm
he
saying this.
wasn't factually wrong for a neighborhood in Atlanta.
Right,
Okay,
exactly. Whereas
but he
this lawsuit was factually wrong. Like
yeah.
NAR does not mandate. Like, it just doesn't.
Well, this
It's
is factually wrong if
wrong.
he's saying 30% of all homes in America are owned by.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. So no, now here's the thing. As I wrote about it, it's not about this lawsuit, right? This lawsuit is gonna get thrown out. It's a piece of crap. Fine.
It's the
The
vibe.
real big thing is what the underlying bubbling resentment,
Yeah, the vibe.
right? That's
Yeah.
behind the lawsuit.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, we
And
saw it a little bit in the comments here about somebody complaining it's not the industry, it's the NAR that came
right,
into the settlement, and
right.
the resentment on how this
You
could have been
guys
better
settled,
handled.
and now we're fucked. There's some of
Well,
that.
you guys, they're a member of you guys, right? So it's like,
Yeah, no, I know. But what
yeah,
I'm saying is like, and this we've seen this now a little bit, like time and again, right? One of the red pill moments of this year, I think, is brokers and agents realizing they don't actually have any say. They don't actually have any power, right? So they thought, we're going to win this, right? Or, even if we lose, we're going to appeal. Why? Because NAR has been saying that we're going to win this, right? And we're confident. And then even after they lost Sitzer, they're like, oh, we're going to appeal this. This was bullshit. The judge made all these mistakes. So everyone's looking forward to cool, appeal. Let's go all the Supreme Court. And then all of a sudden, fold, settle.
yeah.
I think the agents are like, wait a minute. Before you did that, shouldn't there have been some sort of a plebiscite, some sort of NAR emergency member meeting, say, hey, should we settle or not? Like, and it turns out, no, that doesn't happen because you don't count. Like, you actually have no say in
Yeah.
any of that.
I
Okay.
mean, I I think they made a smart move in settling. Now, some of the points about the settlement,
Sure.
yes, we could have, but I mean, a lot of stuff in hindsight
Yeah.
is, we go, why did you do that? But I mean, in the heat of the negotiations, I
Right.
mean, dude,
No. I'm not even questioning. I'm just saying that I think the sentiment from the ground up is that the realtor members, the brokers thought that they would have some kind of say in what
yeah,
NAR would do. And it
yeah,
turns out they have no say. Same thing with RE Colorado sale, right? A lot of the brokers there thought, well, this is our MLS, we're on the board, all this stuff. Surely we would have a say before, right? Nope, you get no say. I think a lot of this anger and frustration comes from that. The 2 billion club, which we talked about when we talked about it. I bet the $2 billion club, they're like, we're the largest brokers in the industry, right? It's our agents who pay the lion's share of the membership dues to NAR. Surely they would consult us before, like, no. So I think what's interesting about that lawsuit is not the lawsuit. The lawsuit is junk. It's trash. What's interesting about it is the emotions and the motivations of brokers and agents that lays behind the lawsuit. And I think, this is my guess, and maybe if you're listening to us right now, you should go and talk to your members. I think the brokers and the agents have lost a lot of faith and patience in, like, organized real estate. I think that's the short way I can put it.
the
Right?
and really, and maybe we end on this a little bit is that, and this is just culturally, the country, we've lost confidence in our experts.
Of course.
We've lost confidence in the leadership we have, right? I mean, it's a systemic thing that goes on in everything that we looked at, right? And that's just, it's, I don't know how we get back from that, man.
I
It's
think we
just tough.
get back from it easily, man. We lost faith in our experts and our leaders because our experts and our leaders are fucking morons who kept fucking things up. Right? It's not like we just overnight lost trust in our experts. Our experts are lying to us. The vaccine is safe and effective. Fuck you, it's not. Right? It's things like that. Our leaders, we lost
Yeah,
faith in our
they've gone
leaders.
in the vaccine now. Okay, all
No,
right.
I'm just like, that's one example. We lost faith in our leaders because our leaders failed, right? Because our leaders fucked up. So it's not that hard to restore faith. It's like, get better leaders, right? Leaders who aren't going to lie to you, leaders who are going to actually deliver what they say, right? I mean, I think that's just endemic. You're right, it's society, but our industry, like NAR said for 3 years, we're gonna win. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. We got this. We're right in the. Okay, you lost. Shouldn't
What
somebody
were
have
they
to resign?
supposed to say? What were they supposed
No,
to
no,
say?
that's fine. My point is, shouldn't somebody have to resign?
I think we did have some resigns. People
Who?
resign. Goldberg.
Goldberg resigned because of the sexual scandal allegation, dude.
I think he's resigned. I mean, didn't he resign right
Did,
after the
did, hold on.
lawsuit
Did
thing?
Goldberg resign saying, I will take responsibility? The buck stops with me? No. He just kind of resigned early. That's what I'm like, and I'm just,
I think that's how most resignations happen, actually.
well, I think if you want to restore faith in the institutions, then the institutions have to be competent, right? And if things get fucked up, then somebody needs to take accountability and be like, you know what? It's my job. It happened on my watch. I will resign. The Japanese do this really well, right? Where the boss, like, I take responsibility, I resign. I think it's going to take something like that to restore some faith. I'm just pointing out right now, today, this is just my gut feeling reading that lawsuit and the comments from the industry. I think brokers and agents are pissed off and they're in no mood to hear any excuses. And I
We're
think they're
mad as
looking
hell, and we're
for
not going to take it anymore.
kind of, right? So if you're a realtor associate, you better figure something out and fast, right? Like, this is my 2016 thing. The time's coming when you're going to be forced to run without the MLS. Well, that time is here. You better figure something out and figure it out really, really fast, right? That's the takeaway. It's not this lawsuit. I don't think local associations or MLS are too worried that their brokers going to get together and start suing them for something. I think it's more you need to be aware of the emotions and the anger among your people, right? And I think most of them are not. So let's end there. I thank you everyone for joining us on the live stream. We try to get to your questions and your things, but we will have this recorded, saved, and moved over to industry relations as soon as we can.
And we'll get our shit together on the
we will
next
get our
live
shit
stream.
together for the
Sorry.
next one, and we'll hopefully have some guests on, on the next live stream, because I think I have the ability to do that. So with that, thank you all for very much, and we are out of here.
Thanks, guys.
All right, bye.